There is a woman in your life right now who is not who she appears to be. You may not know her name yet. You may know it very well. She might sit across from you at work, smile when you walk in, ask how your weekend was. She might be someone you trusted with your silence during the hardest season of your life. She might be someone you called a friend, a colleague, a confidant, or something closer. But there is something happening beneath the surface of that relationship that you have not been able to name, and the fact that you are here watching this right now is not an accident. You are a chosen one. Not because life has been easy for you, not because you have had every door open when you knocked, but because even in the middle of confusion, even when your discernment was whispering something you were afraid to say out loud, you kept moving. You kept showing up. You stayed soft when others would have hardened. And that is not weakness. That is the mark. Chosen ones carry a particular sensitivity. They notice what others miss. They feel shifts in a room before anyone speaks. They wake up in the middle of the night with a knowing in their chest that something is not right, even when they cannot point to a single piece of evidence. That knowing has been active in you. It is the reason you found this message. Let me name what you may have been experiencing lately, because I believe this has been building for some time. You have had moments of inexplicable unease around someone who, by all appearances, seems to be supportive of you. You have walked away from conversations feeling drained in a way that you could not explain, as if something invisible had been taken from you. You have had ideas, plans, dreams that you shared in confidence, only to feel later as though something shifted, as though the energy around those plans changed, the moment they left your lips. You have had moments where your progress seemed to stall right at the threshold of a breakthrough, as if there was an invisible hand pressing against a door you were trying to open. You told yourself you were imagining it. Chosen ones often do. They are trained by their own compassion to extend grace before they extend discernment. They see the best in people because they themselves are oriented toward light. And that quality is sacred, but it has also made you vulnerable. Here is what no one tells you about being chosen. The moment your season of elevation begins, it activates something in the spiritual atmosphere around you. Not everyone around you is rooting for you. Not everyone who prays in your presence is praying for you. Not everyone who calls your name in public speaks it the same way in private. This is not cynicism. This is wisdom. And the fact that you are being drawn into this truth right now means heaven has decided it is time for you to see clearly. Chosen ones have a different relationship with discernment than most people do. Their gift is not just seeing what is, but sensing what is coming. And what is coming for you, what has already been assigned to your next season, is significant enough that the enemy needed a strategy, not a frontal attack. Those are easy to recognize. A strategy, something slower, closer, quieter. Someone positioned near enough to your trust that they could intercept what was meant for you. You are not here because you are paranoid. You are here because you are perceptive. There is a significant difference between the two, and you have always known that difference, even when others told you that you were too sensitive, too intense, too much. You were never too much. You were exactly enough for the assignment that was always coming. The signs that this is your moment, not a moment of fear but a moment of seeing, are already in your body. The tightness when certain names come up, the hesitation before you share a new idea, the way certain conversations leave you smaller than when they began, the recurring sense that someone is watching your growth with something other than celebration, the dream you had more than once about a presence near you that wore a friendly face. These are not warnings to make you afraid. They are activations. They are heaven clearing your vision before your breakthrough so that you walk into what is next with your eyes open. You were not designed to be someone who is caught off guard. You were designed to be someone who moves with clarity, with protection, with the full awareness of what is happening around them. And today, right now, in this moment, that clarity is being restored. The waiting is over. The confusion you have been carrying about certain relationships, certain patterns, certain feelings you could not justify, it is about to make sense. Not to wound you, not to make you bitter, but to set you free for what is already on the other side. You have not been waiting for this moment. This moment has been waiting for you. There is something happening inside you right now that I want to name carefully, because I do not think anyone has sat with you long enough to say it out loud. You have been grieving something you cannot fully explain. Not a death, not a dramatic ending, but a slow and quiet erosion of something you once had. Something that felt like certainty, like safety, like the belief that the people closest to you were exactly who they said they were. That grief has been sitting in your chest, sometimes heavier in the morning, sometimes breaking through at unexpected moments, in the car, in the shower, in the space between waking and sleeping when your guard is down, and the truth you have been avoiding finds its way to the surface. That is the first sign, a wave of sorrow about something you cannot fully name. Not depression, not self-pity, but a mourning that feels ancient and present at the same time. Like you are grieving a version of your life that was promised and has not yet arrived, and grieving a version of your relationships that you now suspect was never entirely real. The second sign is this: places and people that once felt like home have begun to feel heavy. You walk into rooms you used to move through freely and something in you pulls back. You sit across from someone you have known for years and something in the air between you has changed, not dramatically, but undeniably. You cannot return to certain conversations the way you used to. You cannot pretend that certain silences do not carry weight. The familiarity is still there on the surface, but underneath it, something has shifted, and you feel it every single time, even when you smile and say you are fine. The third sign is the dream. Not always the same image, but the same feeling. A door that is there but will not open. A room you can almost see into. A hallway that stretches longer than it should. A voice calling your name from somewhere you cannot reach. You wake up from these dreams not frightened but frustrated, with a longing so specific that it follows you into your day, this sense that something is right there, right on the other side of something, and you are so close but not quite through yet. The fourth sign is repetition, the same message finding you in different places, a word in a sermon, a line in a song you were not paying attention to, a stranger who says something that stops you mid-breath because it is exactly what you needed to hear, a video that finds you at exactly the right moment. That is not coincidence. Chosen ones are followed by confirmation. Heaven does not speak once and move on. It speaks until you receive it. Now I want to sit with something harder, because you deserve more than a message that only tells you what you want to hear. The sleeplessness. The nights where your mind will not quiet, where you replay conversations looking for the moment things changed, where you rehearse what you should have said, what you should have seen sooner. That is real. I am not going to tell you to simply sleep in peace as if the weight is not there. It is there, and it has been there for longer than you have admitted. The loneliness. Not the loneliness of being alone, but the particular loneliness of being surrounded by people and still feeling unseen. The loneliness of carrying a sensitivity that others do not share, of feeling things deeply in a world that rewards those who feel nothing. The loneliness of having discernment that no one around you validates, so you begin to question whether you are simply seeing things that are not there. The feeling of being wrong, not of having done something wrong, but of being wrong somehow, of being too much or not enough, of being built in a way that does not quite fit the shape of the world you are living in. That feeling has followed you, and I want you to hear this clearly. That feeling is not evidence that something is wrong with you. It is evidence that you were not made for the world as it currently is. You are made for the world that is coming through you. And this is where I want to offer a distinction that I believe will stay with you. There is a difference between being overlooked and being positioned. When you are overlooked, you are missed by accident. When you are positioned, you are placed with intention. Overlooked means forgotten. Positioned means protected. Overlooked means you did not make the list. Positioned means you were never meant to be on that list because your assignment requires a different room entirely. The years where you were passed over, where someone less qualified moved ahead of you, where recognition went to people who had not done the work you had done, where you watched others receive what you had prayed for, those years were not evidence that heaven had forgotten your name. They were evidence that you were being held back from the wrong table so that you would still be hungry when the right one was set. Overlooked leaves you behind. Positioned holds you in place until the moment you are needed. You were not left behind. You were held in position. And the woman who has been working against you, whether consciously or through a spirit she does not even recognize she is carrying, she was drawn to you precisely because of where you are positioned. Darkness does not target what is ordinary. It moves toward what is assigned. The fact that there is resistance near you is not evidence that you are failing. It is evidence that something worth resisting is inside you. If you have felt this in your body as you have been listening, if these words have landed somewhere specific and true inside you, I want you to do one thing right now. Type the words "I see it" in the comments below, not for me, but as an act of your own acknowledgement, a declaration that you are no longer going to talk yourself out of what you already know. You see it, and now we move forward together. Before we go any further, I want to give you something practical to hold on to, because I know that some of you are carrying what I have just described and you need more than words right now. You need something to do with your hands, something to do with your breath, something that makes this real in your body and not just in your mind. I want to introduce you to something I call the Clarity Protocol. It is not complicated. It does not require any special equipment or any prior experience with meditation or spiritual practice. It requires only 3 things from you, and all 3 can be done wherever you are right now, whether you are sitting in your car, lying in your bed, or standing in a room full of people while you listen to this through your earphones. The first step is what I call the grateful reversal. I want you to think of something that you almost had, something you prayed for, fought for, or positioned yourself for that did not come through. A relationship that almost happened. A job you almost got. A move you almost made. A door that stayed closed no matter how long you knocked. And instead of mourning it, I want you to do something your past self was not ready to do. I want you to say thank you for the no. Not because the pain of that closed door was not real. It was real. But because you are beginning to see from a higher vantage point now, and from that height, you can start to notice what that no protected you from. The relationship that almost happened, where would it have taken you, knowing what you know now about the patterns you were still carrying then? The job you almost got, would it have required you to be small in ways that your assignment cannot afford? The door that stayed closed, what was on the other side of it that would have delayed what is on the other side of the door that is now opening? The grateful reversal is not about pretending the loss did not cost you. It is about choosing to believe that the hand that closed that door was the same hand that is opening the next one. Spend 60 seconds with one specific no from your past. Let yourself feel the old sting of it, and then, deliberately, say out loud or in your heart, "Thank you for protecting me from what I could not yet see." The second step is what I call the now declaration. And this is where the concept of time becomes important, because what you have been living through has distorted your relationship with time. When you have been waiting long enough, you begin to speak in future tense about things that are already in motion. You say things like "one day," or "when things get better," or "someday when my season changes." And without realizing it, you keep pushing your breakthrough into a future that never quite arrives because your words keep placing it there. The now declaration is a single sentence, spoken as if the thing you have been waiting for is not coming but has already come. Not as a denial of your current reality, but as an alignment with a spiritual reality that exists before your physical circumstances catch up to it. You might say something like, "My clarity has arrived," or "The truth about my situation is being revealed to me now," or simply, "I am no longer operating in confusion. I am seeing clearly." Speak it once slowly and let your own voice carry it into the room around you. The third step is the one that prepares everything else. 7 minutes of intentional silence. Not sleep, not distraction, not scrolling or letting your mind wander to your to-do list. 7 deliberate minutes where you close your eyes, breathe slowly, and do nothing except allow your nervous system to shift from the frequency of anxiety to the frequency of receptivity. 7 minutes where you are not trying to solve anything, figure anything out, or prepare any response to any situation. 7 minutes of simply being available to what is already trying to reach you. I want to tell you why 7 minutes matters specifically, because this is not arbitrary. Research into brainwave activity has shown that the mind, when given approximately 7 minutes of quiet, non-directed stillness, begins to move out of the high-frequency beta state associated with stress and reactive thinking, and begins to settle into the lower, slower frequencies associated with creativity, intuition, and what neuroscientists describe as integrative cognition. In simpler terms, 7 minutes is often enough time for your brain to stop defending and start receiving. For chosen ones, this matters more than it might for others, because your gift, your sensitivity, your discernment, those things operate in a frequency that constant noise suppresses. The woman who has been working against you has benefited, perhaps without even knowing it, from the fact that you have been too overwhelmed, too busy, too stressed to access the clarity that is naturally yours. Noise is a strategy. Stillness breaks it. So tonight, or this morning, or whenever this message finds you, I want you to practice the clarity protocol in order. The grateful reversal, to make peace with your past. The now declaration, to align your words with your present spiritual reality. And then 7 minutes of silence to open yourself to receive what is already moving toward you. These 3 steps are the beginning of something. And what I am about to share with you next is what takes those 7 minutes from a simple breathing exercise to something that operates at the level of your actual neurology. Something that has helped thousands of people in exactly your position move from confusion and spiritual interference into clarity and forward motion. Stay with me, because this next part is where the pieces begin to connect. What I am about to share with you is the bridge between everything you have felt spiritually and what is actually happening inside your brain when you are under the kind of hidden opposition you have been experiencing. Chosen ones carry a specific frequency. This is not just spiritual language. Researchers who study high-functioning cognition, creativity, and what psychologists call peak states of awareness have identified a particular brainwave pattern that appears consistently in people who demonstrate extraordinary levels of intuition, problem-solving, and what can only be described as an unusual ability to perceive what others cannot. That frequency is called gamma, and beneath it, supporting it the way a foundation supports a building, is a wave called theta. Here is what that means for you specifically. Theta waves, which operate between 4 and 8 cycles per second, are the brainwave state associated with deep intuition, accelerated learning, creative insight, and the kind of spiritual sensitivity that chosen ones carry naturally. Children operate in theta almost constantly, which is why they learn so rapidly, why they are so open, why they have not yet built the walls that adults construct around their perception. As we age, and especially as we move through seasons of prolonged stress, hidden betrayal, emotional exhaustion, and the kind of sustained tension that comes from being in proximity to someone who does not wish you well, theta access diminishes. The very gift that makes you a chosen one becomes harder to reach. Not gone, suppressed. Gamma waves are something different. They are the brainwave signature of what researchers call eureka moments, the sudden flashes of insight that change everything, the clarity that arrives in an instant after a long period of confusion, the creative breakthrough that seems to come from nowhere but is actually the result of deep processing that was happening below conscious awareness. Gamma is the frequency of the moment you finally see what has been hidden from you. And for chosen ones, gamma activation is not just intellectual, it is revelatory. A neuroscientist named Dr. James Rivers spent more than 30 years studying the relationship between brainwave states and human potential. His research, conducted with ties to both MIT and NASA, focused on a specific question. Why do some people seem to access clarity, creativity, and insight naturally, almost effortlessly, while others, equally intelligent and equally motivated, remain stuck in patterns of confusion and stagnation regardless of how hard they work or how sincerely they pray? What he discovered after thousands of hours of research and a study that tracked participants across multiple years was that the difference was not intelligence. It was not effort. It was not even faith, though faith played a role. The difference was frequency. Specifically, the ability to access theta and gamma states consistently, rather than accidentally. What Dr. Rivers developed from that research is a 7-minute audio program called the Genius Wave. And I want to be careful here about how I describe it, because it is not magic, and it is not a replacement for the spiritual work you are doing. What it is a precisely engineered sound frequency that uses a principle called brainwave entrainment, the brain's natural tendency to synchronize its own electrical activity with rhythmic external stimuli, to guide your mind gently but deliberately into the theta and gamma states that are your natural inheritance as a chosen one, but that stress, trauma, and hidden opposition have been suppressing. You do not need any prior experience. You do not need to know how to meditate. You do not need to concentrate or focus on anything. You simply listen through headphones for 7 minutes and your brain does what it was always designed to do. It synchronizes, it opens, it receives. I want to tell you about someone who used this tool in a season that sounds very much like yours. A woman named Maya had spent 14 months unable to sleep through the night. She had a close friend, someone she had trusted deeply, who she had begun to suspect was not celebrating her the way she appeared to. The weight of that suspicion, combined with the inability to prove it or release it, had created a kind of low-frequency dread that followed her everywhere. She could not concentrate. She could not pray. Without her mind scattering, she felt spiritually blocked in a way she had never experienced before. She listened to the Genius Wave for the first time at 3 a.m, not expecting much, just desperate for something to quiet the noise. When the 7 minutes ended, she sat in the silence that followed, and for the first time in over a year, she felt her mind go completely still. She slept that night, and the following Monday, she received a phone call she had been waiting for across an entire year. An opportunity that had seemed permanently closed suddenly opening without any explanation other than timing. I want to acknowledge something before I tell you how to access this, because I know what some of you are thinking right now. You are thinking that $39 is not nothing, especially not in a season where resources have felt tight, where every expenditure feels like a risk, where you have already invested in things that promised to help and did not deliver what they claimed. That thought is valid. I want you to hold it, not dismiss it. And then I want to ask you this. What has the confusion cost you already? What has the suppressed discernment cost you? What has moving through your days at a fraction of your clarity cost you in decisions made from fog, in opportunities missed because your frequency was too low to recognize them, In relationships stayed in too long because you could not access the knowing that was trying to reach you. The Genius Wave normally carries a price of $49. Through the link in the pinned comment below, you can access it today for $39. That single link is the only place it is available at this price, and I want to be clear about that, because there are imitation products using similar language that are not the same tool and will not produce the same results. The only version I am referencing, the only one backed by Dr. Rivers' research and the testimonies of more than 19,000 people who have used it, is available exclusively through the pinned comment. It comes with a 90-day money-back guarantee. That means you have 3 full months to experience what happens when your brain begins operating at the frequency you were always meant to carry. If nothing shifts, if your clarity does not improve, if the suppression you have been living under does not begin to lift, you pay nothing. That is not a sales tactic. That is confidence in what the research has consistently shown. But I want to be honest with you about one more thing. The discounted price is not permanent. The number of people who can access the Genius Wave at $39 through this particular offer is limited, and once that number is reached, the price returns to $49 and this specific access point closes. I am not telling you that to pressure you. I am telling you because chosen ones move when they receive clarity, not when circumstances force them. And if something in you recognized itself in what I just described, that recognition is itself a form of clarity. The link is in the pinned comment. It will be there when you are ready. There is something I need to say to you now, and I need you to let me say it without rushing past it toward the comfort that comes later. Because chosen ones are so often given the redemption before they are given the permission to grieve, and I want to do something different with you today. I want to sit in the honest place first, the place that does not yet have a bow on it, the place that is simply true and heavy and real. The years you have spent in this season have taken things from you, real things, tangible things, things that cannot be dressed up in spiritual language and made to sound like they did not matter because they did matter, and pretending otherwise would be a disservice to everything you have carried. Let me name what has been taken. The relationships that should have been built by now, the friendships that might have gone deeper if you had not been so guarded, so cautious, so trained by betrayal to keep part of yourself behind a door that you never fully opened. The love that might have grown if you had not been so exhausted from protecting yourself that you had nothing left over for softness. The community you should have had around you, people who knew your name and your story and your dreams, people who showed up. Not because they needed something from you, but simply because they wanted to be near you. Those relationships, the ones you did not build because you were too worn down, too suspicious, too alone inside a crowd to reach for them, those are real losses, not hypothetical ones. Real ones that you have felt in the quiet of rooms where you wished someone would simply call to check on you without needing something in return. The career that should have gone further by now. The promotion you were ready for but did not receive. The opportunity that went to someone who had not done the work you had done, who had not paid the price you had paid, who simply had the right relationship with the right person at the right moment while you were busy being excellent in a room where excellence was not what was being rewarded. The years you gave to a direction that seemed right until it did not, and then had to begin again from a place that felt embarrassingly far behind where you thought you would be at this point in your life. The energy you spent rebuilding what should not have needed to be rebuilt. The time you cannot recover. That is a real cost. I am not going to minimize it by telling you it was all preparation before you have had the chance to grieve what it actually cost. The freedom to dream out loud. Do you remember when you could say a big dream without immediately calculating how foolish it would sound, without bracing for the subtle deflation that certain people in your life offered in response to your vision? There was a version of you that could hold a large dream in your hands without immediately beginning to shrink it to a size that felt safe. Sighs that would not attract the kind of opposition that comes when you dare to want something significant. You used to speak about the future with an openness that filled the room. Somewhere along the way, you learned to edit yourself before you even opened your mouth. You learned to offer a smaller version of your vision to protect it from people whose hands were not careful enough to hold what you were really carrying. That self-editing that learned smallness was not weakness. It was survival, but it was also a loss. The freedom to dream without armor has been eroded over time by the accumulated weight of sharing your hopes with people who were not capable of holding them with care. And that erosion is something I want to name plainly. And then there is the loss that is hardest to name out loud, the one you have. Probably not said to anyone because you were not sure how to say it without sounding like you were falling apart. The trust you had in yourself, the confidence in your own perception, the ability to walk into a room and trust what you felt, to have a knowing and act on it without spending 3 days talking yourself out of it, to recognize when someone was not who they appeared to be without immediately turning the suspicion back on yourself and wondering if you were simply broken, simply difficult, simply too sensitive to function in ordinary relationships. The version of you that trusted your instincts clearly and completely, that version has been quieter lately. She has been second-guessing herself. He has been apologizing for things that did not require an apology. And that internal erosion, the slow wearing away of self. Trust is the loss that has cost you the most because it has affected every other area of your life. When you do not trust your own perception, you stay in rooms you should have left sooner. You give second chances to people who had already shown you who they were. You silence the part of you that knows something is wrong because you have been told, directly or indirectly, that your knowing cannot be trusted. And the woman who has been working against you has benefited from exactly that silence. Opposition does not only work through dramatic confrontation. It works through the slow, quiet convincing of a chosen one that their discernment is a liability rather than a gift. I am not going to rush past this. I want you to sit here for a moment and simply acknowledge what has been taken, not to grieve it indefinitely, not to build monument to the cost, not to rehearse it until it becomes a story that defines you, but because grief that is not acknowledged does not disappear. It goes underground. It lives in your body as tension, as guardedness, as the low hum of sadness you carry into rooms where you are supposed to be fully present. An underground grief is what keeps chosen ones circling the same season long after the door forward has already been opened for them. They cannot walk through the door because they are still carrying everything the last season took from them, and no one gave them permission to set it down. So I am giving you that permission now. There is a man in the ancient texts named Joseph, and I want to tell you only the part of his story that does not yet have a happy ending, because that is the part that lives in your body right now, not the sermon version, not the triumphant conclusion, but the middle part. The part that is still dark and confusing and expensive. Joseph was a dreamer. He carried a vision so large that it made the people around him uncomfortable. And the people who were most uncomfortable were not strangers. They were the ones closest to him, the ones who should have been his safest place, the ones who had eaten at the same table and grown up under the same roof. They saw what was on him, and instead of celebrating it, they conspired against it. Not always in a dramatic, obvious way at first, in the quiet way that opposition always begins. A dismissal when he spoke about what he had seen. A decision made without him. An alliance formed in a room he was not invited into, until the quiet opposition became action, and the action became consequences that looked from the outside like Joseph had simply fallen, like his gift had led him nowhere, like the dreams had been nothing more than the overconfidence of a young man who did not yet understand how the world worked. And then came the years, not months, years. Years in a place he did not choose, surrounded by people who did not know his name or his story or what he had been promised. Years where the dream must have felt not just distant but almost cruel in its silence. Years where the cost kept accumulating while the promise seemed to have forgotten his address entirely. I am not going to tell you what happened after that yet. Not because the story does not have a turning point. It does, and it is extraordinary. But because right now, what you need is not the redemption arc. What you need is the acknowledgement that the pit was real, that the years in a place that was not where he was meant to be were real, that the cost was real, and it counted, and it was not quickly recovered from simply because the elevation eventually came. You are in the Joseph moment that comes before the turning point, not the part that gets preached on Sunday mornings when everyone is already celebrating. The part that happens on a quiet Tuesday at 2 in the afternoon when you are tired and the breakthrough still has not arrived, and you are genuinely not sure how much longer you can hold the weight of what you have been carrying. That part is real. It counts. It has always counted. And I am not moving past it until you know in the deepest part of yourself that someone has seen it clearly and is not looking away. I want to give you a new language for what you have been living through, because I believe that part of the reason you have carried this weight for so long is that you have not had the right words to name it. And when you cannot name something, you cannot navigate through it. You can only endure it. You absorb it into your body as tension, as confusion, as the low, persistent ache of someone who knows something is wrong but cannot find the sentence that says it clearly enough to act on. So today, I want to introduce you to two ancient concepts that I believe will permanently change the way you see everything that has happened to you and everything that is now approaching. The first concept comes from ancient Greek. The Greeks, who thought more carefully about time than almost any civilization before or since, had two entirely different words for it. The first word was chronos. Chronos is the time you measure with a clock, with a calendar, with the slow accumulation of days that either feel productive or wasted, depending on whether visible progress is being made. Chronos is the time that has been torturing you, the years that felt too long, the seasons that seemed to stretch beyond what was reasonable. The Monday mornings where you woke up and thought, not this again, not another day of the same waiting, the same uncertainty, the same distance between where you are and where you were promised you would be. Chronos is what the enemy uses against chosen ones. It takes the gap between the promise and the fulfillment and it fills that gap with doubt. It says, look how long it has been. Look how many people have moved ahead of you. Look how many seasons have passed while you are still standing in the same place. Chronos, without the right lens, looks like abandonment. It looks like evidence that the promise was never real. But the second Greek word for time is kairos. And kairos does not mean clock time. It does not mean calendar time. Kairos means the appointed moment, the right time, the time that is not measured in days but in readiness. Kairos is the moment when all the conditions align, when the person has been prepared, when the atmosphere is right, when what was promised can finally be received because the one it was promised to has become someone capable of holding it without being destroyed by it. Here is what I want you to understand about the difference. In Chronos, you are behind. In Kairos, you are exactly on time. In Chronos, the years of waiting are years of loss. In Kairos, those same years are years of construction. In Chronos, the woman who has been working against you has stolen time from you. In Kairos, the resistance she created was part of what built the strength you are going to need for what is coming next. You have been measuring your season in Chronos and wondering why you feel so far behind. But heaven has been operating in Kairos the entire time, and by that measure, you are not late. You are precisely positioned for the moment that has always been assigned to you. This is not a reward for your patience. I want to be clear about that, because chosen ones are often told that their breakthrough is coming as a kind of payment for the suffering they have endured, as if heaven is keeping a ledger and you have finally accumulated enough pain to qualify for relief. That is not what Kairos means. Kairos means that there is a moment that was written before you were born, a moment that exists with your name on it, and the chronos time between the promise and the kairos moment is not punishment, and it is not payment. It is preparation. There is a difference, and the difference matters enormously for how you carry yourself through the days that remain before the moment arrives. The second concept I want to give you is older still. It comes from the Hebrew word kava, which is most often translated in ancient texts as the word wait. But that translation has done enormous damage to the people who needed to understand what it actually means, because in English, wait is passive. Wait means sit still. Wait means do nothing. Wait means hold your position and endure the silence until something changes. But kava does not mean any of that. The root image of kava is the braiding of rope. It is the act of taking multiple strands, each one individually too weak to bear significant weight, and twisting them together under tension until what emerges is something that can hold far more than any single strand ever could. Kava is not passive waiting. It is active becoming. It is the process by which the separate threads of your experience, your pain, your wisdom, your discernment, your faith, your survival, are being twisted together under the tension of this season into something with a strength and a capacity that did not exist before the pressure was applied. Think about what that means for the years you have called wasted. The thread of the relationship that broke you but taught you what your boundaries needed to be. The thread of the career detour that felt like failure but developed a skill you did not know you would need. The thread of the betrayal by someone you trusted, the very kind of betrayal you are navigating right now, that sharpened your discernment to a precision it could not have reached without the wound. Every thread that felt like loss was being twisted into the rope. And the rope is not finished yet, but it is closer to finished than it has ever been. You have not been delayed, you have been assembled. Now I want to bring you to the second ancient concept, the one that speaks directly to the moment you are in right now, in this specific season, with this specific opposition, at this specific threshold. Ancient wisdom speaks of what can only be called the hour of revelation. Not a clock hour, but a kairos moment within the larger kairos moment, a specific point in a chosen one's journey where the thing that has been hidden is suddenly, irreversibly made visible, where the pattern that was operating in darkness is brought into light not through the chosen one's investigation or effort, but through a simple and sovereign act of uncovering that no amount of concealment can prevent. The hour of revelation is not something you manufacture. You cannot force it by confronting the person who has been working against you. You cannot accelerate it by gathering evidence or building a case. The hour of revelation comes when heaven determines that you have been prepared to handle the truth without being destroyed by it, when your discernment is clear enough to receive what is revealed without misusing it, when your character has been developed enough that what you do with the revelation will be worthy of the assignment on the other side of it. And here is what the hour of revelation does when it arrives. It does not just show you the person who has been opposing you. It shows you the full architecture of what has been happening. You see not just the action but the pattern, not just the moment of betrayal but the timeline of it, not just the wound but the purpose it served in your formation. And in that moment of seeing clearly, something that has been knotted inside you for years releases, not in anger, in understanding. The pain finally has a name, and the name of it is this: it was always a calling. The opposition was not proof that you were too much. It was proof that what was on you was significant enough to require a strategy against it. The hidden resistance was not evidence of your weakness. It was evidence of your assignment's magnitude. The woman who has been working against you was never the main story. She was a character in a story whose main character has always been you, and whose author has never once lost the thread. If you have felt something shift as you have been listening to this, something loosening in your chest, something clarifying in your mind, I want you to type the words "I am ready" in the comments below. Not as a performance, as a declaration. a statement to yourself and to the spiritual atmosphere around you that you are done operating in the fog of Chronos and you are stepping into the clarity of your Kairos moment. The hour of revelation has begun, and what it reveals will not break you, it will free you. There is a particular feeling that comes just before everything shifts, and I want to describe it to you carefully because if you are in it right now, you may be misreading it entirely. It feels like stillness, not the peaceful kind, but the held breath kind, the kind that sits in your chest like the moment before a storm breaks or the moment before a sentence is finished that you have been waiting years to hear. It feels like the world around you has slowed down in a way that is slightly disorienting, like you are moving through your ordinary days with a new and unfamiliar awareness, as if something in you has already crossed a threshold that your circumstances have not yet caught up to. You may have been dismissing that feeling as anxiety, as overthinking, as the particular kind of restlessness that comes from waiting too long. But I want to offer you a different interpretation. That feeling is not anxiety. That is the feeling of proximity. You are close, closer than you have ever been. And the atmosphere around a chosen one who is about to step into their Kairos moment carries exactly that quality of charged stillness, of something enormous gathering itself just beyond the edge of what is currently visible. 3 things are already in motion for you. 3 areas of your life that have been locked, suppressed, or operating below what was meant for them are beginning to move. And I want to describe each one with enough specificity that you can recognize the movement when it begins. Because chosen ones who are not prepared to recognize the shift sometimes mistake it for something ordinary and let it pass without receiving what it was carrying. The first area is your inner world, the landscape of your own mind and spirit. For a long time, possibly for years, your interior life has been characterized by a kind of low-level static, a persistent background noise made up of doubt, second-guessing, the replaying of old wounds, and the exhausting work of trying to hold yourself together while simultaneously managing the hidden opposition you have been under. That static is beginning to quiet, not all at once, not dramatically, but in moments. You will notice it first in the mornings, a few seconds after waking where your mind is unusually clear before the day's concerns begin to gather. Then in longer stretches, whole hours where the noise simply is not there, and what is left in its place is something that feels almost foreign because you have not felt it in so long. That something is your own voice, your actual inner voice, not the voice of fear, not the voice of the person who has been working against you that you have unconsciously absorbed, but the voice that belongs to you and that has always known exactly who you are and what you are here to do. The emotion you will feel in those moments is a mixture of grief and relief, grief for the time the noise occupied, and relief so profound it may bring you to tears without warning. Do not be alarmed by the tears. They are not sadness. They are the release of a pressure that has been building for a very long time, and the body needs to move it out before the clarity can fully settle in. What you should not do in this period is immediately fill the quiet with activity, with planning, with the next task or the next problem to solve. The temptation for chosen ones who have been striving for so long is to treat every moment of clarity as an opportunity to catch up on the time they feel they have lost. Resist that impulse. The quiet is not a gap to be filled. It is a frequency to be inhabited. Let yourself simply be present in it, because what you will receive in those moments of unusual stillness will be more valuable than anything you could produce by filling them with noise. What you can trust in this area is that the confusion that has characterized your thinking is not a permanent condition. It was a symptom of the season, not a definition of your mind. Your mind is extraordinary, and it is returning to itself. The second area that is shifting is your relational landscape, and this one will require the most discernment from you, because the changes will not always look like what you expect a blessing to look like. Some of them will initially feel like loss. There are people in your life right now who are going to begin to create distance from you. Not dramatically, not with a confrontation or an explanation, but with a gradual withdrawal that you will notice before they acknowledge it. Invitations that slow, conversations that become surface level, an availability that quietly decreases without anything specific being said. For someone who has already been through the loneliness of this season, that withdrawal can feel like further abandonment. But I want you to hear what it actually is. It is a clearing. When a chosen one enters their kairos season, the relational atmosphere around them reorganizes itself. People who were connected to the old frequency, the frequency of struggle, of suppression, of operating below what was meant for them, begin to feel a dissonance with the new frequency you are beginning to carry. They are not necessarily bad people. Some of them genuinely care for you, but they were assigned to a version of you that is completing its season, and they do not have the capacity to travel with you into what is next. Their withdrawal is not rejection, it is completion. And in the space that their departure creates, something else will begin to appear. New connections, arriving with a quality that is immediately different from what you have known before. People who recognize something in you before you have said very much. Conversations that go deep almost instantly, as if you have known each other in some way that predates the meeting. Relationships that do not require you to make yourself smaller to be accepted, that in fact seem to grow warmer the more fully yourself you become. These connections will not come from where you expect them. They will arrive through paths that seem coincidental, through introductions that seem random, through the particular kind of divine arrangement that chosen ones recognize as something other than accident. What you should not do in this period is hold too tightly to the relationships that are completing. Do not chase what is withdrawing. Do not pour energy into convincing people to stay who have already begun to leave in their spirit, even if their body is still in the room. That energy belongs to what is coming, not to what is completing. What you can trust is this: you will not end up alone. The clearing is not a reduction. It is a preparation of space for connections that are specifically suited to carry the weight of what you are about to step into. The third area that is shifting is the area of resources and opportunity. And this is the one that chosen ones often find hardest to believe, because it has been the most visibly dry for the longest time. For years, it may have felt like you were fighting for every inch of ground in this area, working harder than people around you for less return, watching opportunities flow toward others while yours seemed to arrive damaged, incomplete, or just slightly out of reach. That pattern was real, and I am not going to tell you it was only your perception. The suppression in this area was intentional. What was meant to flow toward you was being intercepted, misdirected, or delayed by the opposition you have been under. But here is what happens when that opposition is removed, when the clarity you are stepping into begins to disrupt the strategy that has been working against you. The resources that were being held back do not arrive in a trickle. They arrive with what can only be described as a correction, a realignment of what was always meant to be yours finding its way back to its proper destination. Opportunities that seemed closed will reopen without explanation. Doors that you knocked on years ago and walked away from will open from the inside, as if someone on the other side finally received the message that you had been there. Financial patterns that seemed fixed will shift in ways that your logic cannot fully account for. What you should not do in this period is immediately attribute every new opportunity to your own effort and begin striving again from the old frequency of struggle. The shift in this area is not the result of you finally doing enough. It is the result of an alignment, a divine repositioning of what was always designated for you. Receive it with open hands, not clenched ones. What you can trust is that your portion has not been given to someone else. It has been held, and held things when they are finally released carry interest. If something in these three areas has landed in a place that feels personal and specific to your situation, if your body has responded to one of these descriptions with a recognition that goes beyond intellectual agreement, I want you to type the word "I receive" in the comments right now, because receiving begins before the physical manifestation arrives. It begins in the posture of your spirit, and the posture you choose in this moment is the posture you will be standing in when the door fully opens. What I just described to you, those three areas shifting, those relationships clearing and realigning, that interior quiet returning, those resources finding their way back to you, I want you to understand that none of that is happening to a generic version of you. It is not happening to chosen ones in general as a category, as a spiritual demographic. It is happening to you specifically, to the particular shape of who you are, to the exact person who has lived through the exact season you have lived through, carrying the exact combination of wounds and wisdom and endurance that no one else on this earth carries in quite the same configuration. And because of that, I want to give you a name today, not the name you were given at birth, not the name that the hardest years of your life tried to write on you, but the name that describes who you have become through everything you have survived, and who you are being positioned to be for the world that is waiting for you on the other side of this threshold. You are a cycle breaker. I want to explain what that means with the seriousness it deserves, because it is not a motivational phrase, and it is not a compliment designed to make you feel better in a difficult moment. It is a precise description of a specific assignment, and I believe it belongs to you. A cycle breaker is someone who has been placed at the intersection of a generational pattern and a generational turning point. They are the person in a lineage, in a community, in a sphere of influence, who carries enough awareness to see the pattern that has been repeating, enough courage to refuse to repeat it themselves, and enough grace to absorb the cost of that refusal without becoming bitter. Breaking a cycle is never free. Someone always pays the price of the interruption. The person who breaks a generational pattern of silence pays with the discomfort of speaking. The person who breaks a generational pattern of smallness pays with the exposure that comes from becoming visible. The person who breaks a generational pattern of betrayal, of relationships built on transaction rather than truth, pays with the loneliness of holding a higher standard than the people around them have been trained to meet. You have been paying that price for longer than felt fair, and the woman who has been working against you, whether she knew it fully or not, was an instrument of the very cycle you were born to break. She carried the energy of the pattern of using proximity to access what belongs to someone else, the pattern of performing support while privately opposing, the pattern that says, if I cannot have what you have, I will work to ensure you cannot have it either. That pattern is ancient. It has been running through human relationships since the beginning of recorded time. And you were placed in this specific moment, in proximity to this specific expression of it, not because you were vulnerable, but because you were strong enough to be the one through whom it finally stops. A cycle breaker does not win by defeating the person who carried the pattern. They win by refusing to carry the pattern forward themselves, by choosing clarity over retaliation, by choosing truth over the comfortable silence that would have allowed the cycle to continue, by choosing to see what is actually happening rather than settling for the version of reality that was being constructed around them. That is what you have been doing, even in the moments when you thought you were simply surviving. Now I want to take you somewhere. I want to guide you through a brief act of imagination, because there are things that the mind understands through image and experience that it cannot fully receive through words alone. Picture yourself standing at a threshold, not a metaphorical one, but a specific physical image in your mind. A doorway, wide enough to walk through, standing in the open air. Behind you is everything that has shaped you to this point. I want you to turn and look at it honestly, not with the eyes of someone who is cataloging their losses, but with the eyes of someone who is finally far enough from it to see it. Oh, you see the years of waiting, and you see now that they were not empty. You see the relationships that cost you, and you see now what they built in you through their difficulty. You see the seasons of confusion, and you see the precision with which your discernment was being sharpened inside them. You see the woman who has been working against you, and you see for the first time not just what she did, but what it produced in you, the particular quality of awareness, the specific depth of wisdom, the refined capacity for truth that could only have been developed through that exact kind of opposition. You are not looking at a wasted life behind you. You are looking at a formation, a long, costly, precise formation that has produced exactly the person who is needed for exactly what is on the other side of this threshold. Now turn forward. Do not try to see all the details of what is ahead. You are not meant to see all of it yet, but let yourself notice the quality of the light that is coming through. It is different from the light you have been living in. It is clearer. It is warmer. It carries a quality that you recognize in your body even if your mind does not yet have words for it. It is the light of alignment, of being exactly where you were always meant to be, of walking in a direction that finally matches the deepest true thing about who you are. And now notice where your feet are. You are not standing in the past anymore. You are not standing in the future yet. You are standing exactly at the threshold, which means you have not missed it. You have not arrived too late. You are here at the precise moment of crossing, which is the only moment that matters. Now I want to speak something over you before you take that step forward. And I want you to receive it not as words on a screen, but as something spoken directly into the truest part of who you are. May the clarity that has been building in you through this season now become the foundation of every decision you make going forward. May the discernment that was sharpened through the opposition you have endured become a gift, not just to yourself, but to everyone whose life you are about to touch. May the relationships that are coming carry a quality of safety and truth that restores what the difficult ones took from you. May the resources that are aligning themselves toward you arrive with ease, as an acknowledgement of what was always designated as yours. May the woman who was working against you and everything her opposition represented remain exactly where it belongs, on the other side of the threshold you are now crossing. And may you walk through that door with your full name, your full voice, your full dream, and your full self intact. You are a cycle breaker, and the cycle ends here. PH letter 1EA7N9. You have been listening and absorbing and feeling the weight of recognition that comes when truth lands in the right place at the right time. And I know that for some of you, the most natural question rising in you right now is a practical one. Not what does this mean spiritually, not what does this say about my identity, but what do I actually do with this? What is the action that belongs to this moment? What does? A chosen one who is standing at the threshold of their kairos, season do with their hands and their feet, and their actual ordinary days, while the larger shift is completing itself? I want to answer that question with the same honesty I have been bringing to everything else in this message, because chosen ones are not called to passivity. The revelation is not the destination. It is the starting line. And there are three very specific and very practical areas where your action right now will determine the quality of what you step into. The first area is your relationships, and the action required here is the most uncomfortable of the three, which is why I am starting with it rather than building up to it. You need to begin making an honest inventory of who currently has access to your inner world. Not your social circle in general, not your acquaintances, not the people you interact with at a surface level, but the specific people who have access to your plans before they are finished, your dreams before they are concrete, your doubts before they have resolved themselves, your fears before they have been faced. people who know the soft places in you, the people to whom you have given the particular kind of trust that allows them to speak into your direction and be believed. That list is probably smaller than you think, and somewhere on it, or recently removed from it, is the woman this message has been about. The one whose access to your inner world has been costing you more than you have been willing to fully calculate. The action I am asking you to take is not confrontation. I want to be very clear about that, because chosen ones who have just received a revelation about someone in their life sometimes feel the pull toward a dramatic reckoning, toward a conversation that forces the truth into the open and demands an acknowledgement. I understand that impulse, but it is almost never the right move at this stage. Confrontation without clarity about your own next step simply creates noise. It spends energy on closing the wrong door instead of opening the right one. The action I am asking you to take is a quiet, deliberate, undramatic withdrawal of access. Not an announcement, not an explanation. Simply a decision made in your own spirit that certain information about your inner life is no longer available to this person. That your plans will be shared with them only after they have already been set in motion. That your dreams will be spoken in rooms where the atmosphere is safe, not in proximity to someone whose relationship with your progress has been characterized by interference rather than celebration. You do not need to end the relationship publicly. You need to end the access privately. And then, you need to guard what belongs to you with the same quiet firmness that the season ahead of you is going to require. Alongside this withdrawal, begin to make space for the new relational connections that are approaching. This means practicing something that may feel unnatural after a long season of guardedness. It means allowing yourself to be known in small, deliberate steps by the new people who are beginning to appear in your atmosphere. It means resisting the temptation to test every new relationship against the template of the old painful ones. Not everyone who reaches toward you is reaching to take something. Some of them are being sent specifically to restore what was taken. Let them. The second area where your action matters right now is your sense of purpose, and the specific action required here is smaller than you might expect. For a long time, the question of your purpose may have felt enormous and unanswerable, like a horizon that kept moving further away the closer you walked toward it. You may have spent years in the particular exhaustion of someone who knows they are meant for something specific, but cannot yet see it clearly enough to move toward it with confidence. That uncertainty has been expensive. It has kept you in a holding pattern, circling the question without being able to land anywhere. Here is what I want you to do. Stop trying to answer the large question and start paying attention to the small signal. The large question is, what is my purpose? And it is too big to answer in a single step. The small signal is, what is the one thing in front of me right now that feels more alive than everything else? The one conversation that energizes rather than drains. The one area where your particular combination of experience and insight produces something that others cannot easily replicate. The one problem that, when you encounter it, makes you feel something that resembles anger mixed with capability. The particular feeling of someone who knows how to fix something and has been waiting for permission to fix it. That signal has been there the whole time. It may have been quieted by the noise of the opposition you have been under, but it has not been extinguished. And the action I am asking you to take is simply this. Follow the signal one step, not 10 steps, not to the finished destination. One step in the direction of the thing that feels most alive in you right now, and then pay attention to what opens in response to that. Movement. Chosen ones who have been in stillness too long sometimes forget that clarity comes through movement, not before it. You do not wait until you can see the whole staircase before you take the first step. You take the first step, and the next one becomes visible. That one step, taken today, or this week, or in the days immediately following this message, will do more to unlock your sense of direction than another year of waiting for complete certainty before moving. The third area is resources and opportunity, and the action required here is perhaps the most counterintuitive of all. Stop striving. I know that sounds like the opposite of practical advice. I know that for someone who has been in a prolonged season of lack or limitation, the instruction to stop fighting for every resource feels almost irresponsible. But I want to explain precisely what I mean, because there is a difference between effort and striving that matters enormously for where you are right now. Effort is aligned action taken from a place of clarity and purpose. Striving is frantic action taken from a place of fear and scarcity, the desperate energy of someone who believes that if they stop pushing for even a moment, everything will fall apart, that there is not enough, and they must compete for whatever small portion might be available to them. Striving is exhausting not just because of the energy it requires, but because of the frequency it keeps you in. The frequency of scarcity repels the very resources it is working to attract. It signals to the spiritual atmosphere around you that you do not believe your portion is guaranteed, and that signal is answered with more scarcity. What you are being invited into now is a posture of aligned receptivity. This does not mean doing nothing. It means doing the things that are specifically yours to do, the actions that arise from your clarity and your calling, and releasing the frantic grasping at every opportunity that appears regardless of whether it is actually designated for you. Not every open door is your door. Not every opportunity that presents itself in this season is the one you were made for. The discernment you have been developing through everything this season has cost you includes the ability to tell the difference between an opportunity that is simply available and an opportunity that is actually appointed. Your portion is not going to be taken by someone else. It is not sitting in a finite pool that others are drawing from faster than you can reach it. It has your name on it, and it is moving toward you through channels that are already in motion. Your job is not to chase it. Your job is to be in the right position, with the right frequency, with your hands open rather than clenched when it arrives. Practically this week, that might look like one honest conversation with someone who is connected to the area of opportunity you have been called toward. It might look like a single email sent, a single application submitted, a single introduction requested, done from a place of quiet confidence rather than desperate urgency. It might look like clearing physical and mental space, literally organizing your environment, literally quieting the noise in your schedule to create room for what is coming to land somewhere. Small actions, right frequency, open hands. These three areas, relationships, purpose, and resources, are not separate problems requiring separate solutions. They are one integrated movement, and when you begin to shift in any one of them, the others begin to respond. A cleared relational atmosphere creates space for purpose to clarify. A clarified purpose creates a frequency that attracts the right resources. The right resources create capacity for deeper relationships. They move together, and they are already beginning to move. You are not being asked to build everything overnight. You are being asked to take the next right step in each of these three areas with the clarity and the faith that a chosen one at the threshold of their Kairos season carries. That is enough. That has always been enough. I want to take a moment before we close to acknowledge something that I do not say lightly. You stayed. You did not click away when the message got uncomfortable. You did not skip past the parts that required you to sit with something difficult. You did not dismiss what you were hearing when it asked you to look honestly at a relationship that has been costing you more than you have admitted. You stayed through the grief of what has been taken, through the ancient language of time that reframed your waiting, through the three areas of shift that asked you to take real and uncomfortable action. You stayed through the moment where the pain was named without being rushed past. You stayed through the invitation to set down what you have been carrying. And that staying is not a small thing. In a world that is designed to pull your attention in 17 directions simultaneously, the act of remaining present with something that asks, something real of you, is itself an act of courage. I want to name what that courage cost you today, because some of you came into this message already exhausted. Some of you opened this video after a day that had already taken more than it gave. Some of you were running on the particular fumes of someone who has been strong for everyone around them for so long that they have almost forgotten what it feels like to let someone else hold something for a moment. And you gave this message your attention anyway. You showed up even in the tired, even in the uncertain, even in the part of you that wondered whether this would be one more thing that sounded true but did not translate into anything real when you return to your actual life. I want to tell you that it will translate, not because of anything I have said, but because of what you already carried when you arrived. The sensitivity that made you receptive to this message is the same sensitivity that makes you dangerous to every assignment that has been trying to keep you small. The discernment that has been quietly whispering about the woman in your life long before you had language for it is the same discernment that is going to guide you through every door that is now beginning to open. The endurance that kept you here through the uncomfortable parts is the same endurance that has carried you through every difficult season that tried to be your last one and failed. You are not starting from zero. You are starting from everything this season built in you, and that is an entirely different beginning. I want you to know that you are not alone in this moment. All across the world right now, other chosen ones are walking into this exact same message. Someone is listening to this in a language I will never speak, in a city I will never visit, in a season that looks different from yours on the outside but carries the identical interior weight. Someone is hearing these words in a hospital waiting room. Someone is hearing them in the parking lot of a job they are about to walk away from. Someone is hearing them at 3 in the morning in the particular darkness that chosen ones know intimately. The darkness that comes not from absence of faith, but from the exhaustion of carrying faith alone for too long without anyone to name it alongside them. Someone is hearing this in a marriage that has grown quiet in the wrong ways. Someone is hearing this on the other side of a loss they have not yet been able to speak about out loud. You are in a room full of people right now, an invisible room stretched across every time zone and every language and every variation of the specific pain that comes from being someone who was built for more than their current circumstances have been able to contain. And not one of them arrived here by accident, and neither did you. Every single person in that invisible room has been shaped by a season that cost them something significant, and every single one of them is standing at a threshold that looks, from the inside, far less certain than it will look when they are on the other side of it looking back. That is where you are. And I need you to trust that assessment even when your circumstances have not yet confirmed it. I want to invite you to do something before you leave this message. I want you to do it in your imagination, slowly and deliberately, because what you do in your imagination shapes the frequency of your body, and the frequency of your body shapes what you attract into your physical reality in the days and weeks that follow. Picture yourself holding something heavy. It does not need to have a specific shape, just a weight, something that represents everything you have been carrying through this season. The grief of what was taken, the weariness of the waiting, the confusion of not being able to name what was happening around you, the loneliness of carrying a discernment that no one around you validated, the cost of being a cycle breaker before anyone called you by that name, the exhaustion of being strong in seasons that did not deserve your strength. Let yourself feel the actual physical weight of it in your imagined hands. Do not rush past this. Let the weight be real for a moment before you set it down. And now picture yourself standing at the threshold, the same one I described earlier, and this time I want you to do something deliberate and final. I want you to set the weight down, not throw it, not destroy it, Not pretend it was never real. Simply set it down carefully and with full awareness on the ground behind you. Look at it one last time if you need to. Acknowledge what it represented, what it cost you, what it built in you through the building of it, and then let it stay there. It belongs to the season that is completing. It does not travel with you through the door. Everything that weight represented served its full purpose in forming you into the person who is now standing at this threshold. And now that purpose is complete. It has finished its work, and you are free to leave it where it lies. Step through the door with empty hands. And I want you to feel what that actually means in your body, because empty hands are not a symbol of loss or defeat or arrival at the end of something. Empty hands are the hands of someone who has put down what was never meant to be permanent, so that they can receive what was always meant to be theirs. They are the hands of someone who has decided that what is coming is more important than holding onto what has already served its time. They are the posture of a chosen one who has finally, fully, stepped into the season they were born for. Before I let you go, I want to mention something one final time, gently and without any pressure at all. If the genius wave met you somewhere in the middle of this message, if the description of those 7 minutes of intentional silence resonated in a way that felt like more than information, if something in you recognized the connection between the frequency you are being called into and the tool that was built to help your brain access that frequency consistently and deliberately rather than accidentally, it is waiting for you in the pinned comment below. No urgency, no pressure, simply an open door for the ones who know in their spirit that it is a yes. You will know if it is for you. Chosen ones always recognize what belongs to them. And now a request that comes from the most genuine place in this message. If what you received today named something that has been living unnamed in you, if it offered you a clarity or a comfort or a courage that changed the quality of how you see your current season, I want to ask you to share it. Not for me. Share it so that this message can find another chosen one who is walking into their Monday morning without anyone to name it for them. Someone who is about to dismiss their discernment one more time because no one has yet confirmed that what they are sensing is real. Someone who is about to give access to one more person who has not earned it because they do not yet know that guarding their inner world is an act of obedience, not selfishness. Someone who is standing at the exact threshold you are standing at right now, in the dark, without a name for where they are or a language for what they are feeling, and who needs to know that the threshold is not the end. Like this video, leave a comment with whatever this message stirred in you. Share it with the person whose face came to your mind while you were listening, because that face appearing was not random. Subscribe so that the next message finds you the way this one did, at the exact right moment, carrying exactly what you needed before you knew you needed it. You came into this message carrying something heavy and without a name for it. You leave with a name, with a language, with a map for what has been happening in the hidden places of your life and what is now beginning to move in the visible ones. You leave knowing that the opposition was always formation, that the delay was always positioning, that the woman who has been working against you was never powerful enough to rewrite what was written for you before you were born. She could slow the delivery. She could not change the destination. Go forward with clear eyes, with open hands, with the full, unhurried, unashamed weight of who you have become through everything it cost you to become her. You are a cycle breaker. The cycle ends with you, and the world on the other side of that door has been holding its breath, waiting for exactly the person you have become. May you walk out of this message and into the rest of your day carrying something you did not have when you arrived. Not a plan, not a strategy, not a list of things to do or people to confront or decisions to make before nightfall. Simply a knowing. A quiet, settled, unshakable knowing that you are not who the hardest years tried to tell you that you were, that you are not behind, that you are not forgotten, That the woman who has been working against you in the hidden places of your life was never the author of your story and never had the power to rewrite its ending. You are a chosen one, and chosen ones do not stumble into their destiny by accident. They are led there through seasons that looked like wilderness and felt like punishment but were always preparation. Every closed door, every delayed answer, every relationship that cost more than it gave, every night where you held the weight of a dream that no one around you could see clearly enough to carry with you. All of it was preparation. None of it was wasted. Not one day, not one tear, not one morning where you got up anyway when everything in you wanted to stay down. That person, the one who got up anyway, who kept believing anyway, who kept showing up to a life that had not yet caught up to the promise, that is who you are. And that person deserves to walk into what is next with their full name, their full voice, and their full dream intact. So go gently. Go with clear eyes and open hands. Go with the discernment that this season sharpened and the compassion that it never managed to take from you, because it tried and you held onto it anyway. And that holding was one of the most quietly heroic things you have ever done. Go knowing that the clearing has already begun, that the right people are already in motion toward you, that the resources designated for you are already finding their way through channels that your logic cannot yet trace, that the purpose you have been circling is about to become a straight and visible path beneath your feet. And go knowing this, which is perhaps the most important thing of all. You are not walking into what is next alone. You are walking in with everything you have survived, everything you have learned, and everything that was placed inside you before you were born for exactly this moment. The season of confusion is behind you. The season of clarity has begun. Go well, chosen one. The world has been waiting for you.